All right, good afternoon, everybody. With a quorum being present, I now call to order the March 26, 2026 meeting of the Hudson River Park Trust Board of Directors. Please note that the meeting is being shown live via Zoom and is also being recorded, and a video will be posted on the Trust website, and a stenographer will provide a transcript of the meeting. The directors have received the agenda materials in advance of this meeting and are free to ask questions or comment at any time on the action items submitted for approval today. I note that the board memos and resolutions in today's agenda have been posted on the Trust website and in the link entitled Board Meetings, Bylaws, and Other Materials under Board Agendas and Minutes, and thus are available to the public. There are 4 items on the consent agenda. 1, approval of minutes and ratification of the actions taken at the January 22nd, 2026 meeting of the Hudson River Park Trust Board of Directors. 2, ratification and approval of extensions of contract term with Gilbane Building Company for Pier 97 Construction Management Services. 3, authorization to contract with Prestige Stone and Pavers Corp. For park-wide unit pavement restoration. And 4, ratification of community member appointee to the Hudson River Park Advisory Council. Unless anyone has any comments, I will now call for a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda. Second? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion's approved. The first corporate action before the board is approval of the April 1st, 2026 to March 31st, 2027 fiscal year budget. All directors have received a copy of the budget, and the Finance Committee met on March 24th to go over the budget in detail. So I will ask the chair of the Finance Committee, Director Kaplan, to speak.
Thank you. The members of the Finance Committee reviewed the proposed budget for fiscal year 2027 on March 24th, 2026, and had the opportunity to ask questions about the budget with Trust staff. Overall, the committee members were satisfied with the proposed budget as presented. As the chair of the Finance Committee, I now recommend that the board approves the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments on the proposed budget? If not, I will call for a motion for the trust to approve the fiscal year 2027 budget. Second? That's backwards. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion's approved. The second corporate action item before the board is adoption of seeker findings and authorization to consent to the Office of General Services issuance of a permanent easement to Battery Park City Authority for the Northwest Resiliency Project. Both the trust proposed seeker findings and the draft indenture prepared by the Office of General Services have been shared with the directors. So I'll first ask if there are any questions or comments on the proposed seeker finding statement. If not, I will call for a motion for the trust to adopt the seeker findings dated March 2026 for the Northwest Resiliency Project. Second? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion's approved. Are there any questions or comments on the draft indenture prepared by the Office of General Services? Okay, if not, I will call for a motion for the trust to consent to the Office of General Services issuance of a permanent easement to Battery Park City Authority. Okay, second. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion's approved. Yes.
It's a big deal for us to grant a permanent easement. I think we're doing the right thing in doing so because it'll also make for a better park and user experience. So great job on taking this seriously, on the engagement with Battery Park City Authority, because I think in the end of the day, this will improve for everybody down there, in particular, our park users.
We certainly agree. The easement width, as you saw in your materials, is just over 6 feet wide. So it is not a vast addition, but that choke point at a 90-degree angle between the places where our two parks meet is a problem when you have as many people using the park as we have. So we agree. Yeah, the easement is over the water. So the easement is over the water, and there will be construction, as you saw in all your materials, for multi-year period on the land side as well. But that will be handled with a construction permit that we will figure out after they have their details available for construction, and that will not be an easement. That will just be our construction permit to them for their temporary disruption. Yeah, a modest phase, that will be more intense, and we have not issued the construction permits yet for that more intense phase.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you. That completes the board action items for approval today. Because all the necessary business has been completed, we will not proceed with the advisory councils or the Friends report today. I note that all directors received a copy of the trust report to the advisory council dated March 2026 that provides details on what's happening in the park. And the report's also publicly available on the Hudson River Park website. Are there any updates to the president's report?
Yes, thank you. So I know that we've been talking about this ICE contract a lot, but there are protests today. You've all received calls today from people, again, seeking that we cancel the contract immediately. So even though we spoke about this before and we've been speaking about this and providing updates on our review, I'd like to just directly address it for the record here. So as the board knows, after meeting with the advisory council in February to discuss and answer initial questions, we met again with them last week. And at that point, we explained that the careful review of the contract that we conducted, including with outside counsel firms with deep experience in federal contracting and federal regulations, has resulted in a determination that the trust has no legal basis to end the parking contract before its expiration later this year. Based on the legal review, this is a federal government contract governed by federal procurement rules known as the Federal Acquisition Regulation. And under those rules, the authority to terminate the contract belongs to the federal government, in this case ICE, and not to the trust. We fully understand that many, many people would like us to break the contract anyway. I've spoken directly with elected officials, with community leaders, and with community organizers about this, and we've certainly all continued to read the many, many letters we've received. The trust, obviously, is a governmental entity, and we're required to comply with the law and with the agreements we entered into. We cannot knowingly break a contract without a legal basis. This is not, as we've discussed, about the amount of the contract value. Also, and importantly, even if we were to have a valid legal basis for a contract dispute, and based on the contract terms, that would be something like a failure of the federal government to pay. The trust would be required to continue to provide parking while it appeals through a formal federal, I'll note that, federal process, undermining what people would hope for, that the small number of ICE vehicles will leave Pier 40 early before the contract natural end date. With our advisory council, with ball field leagues, with tenants, and with other community members, we have reiterated that we take people's safety concerns very seriously. We've confirmed that we have not seen any changes with respect to ICE operations in the park as compared to previous decades, and we've reiterated that we are working to provide resources and support for park tenants, sports leagues, and other park partners. We respect people's right to protest, and we remain committed to providing a welcoming, safe, and accessible public space. I believe I'm restating information we've all already discussed, but I will pause here in the event anyone wants to add anything. Okay, so just a couple of other quick updates. Repair work at Pier 40, including the upgrades to the fire suppression work, is continuing. We're now spending about $1 million a month with that, and the amount is growing. Pier 51 is going to start construction shortly. Hudson Tunnel is back in construction. And the ULURP applicants are in process. We'll be headed to city planning next week to testify. Yes, the project known as DeWitt Clinton Park North, yes. I'll just a couple of other things. I'd like to thank Sikander Zuberi for his work on the budget. He did an excellent job putting this all together, so thank you, Sikander. I also would like to thank our parks crew. It seems like a very long time ago at this point, but it was a short time ago that they were removing snow and ice for days and days and days on end. They did a fantastic job. Right now, we're heavily engaged in planning for the extraordinary events of the summer, the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the World Cup. We're working with the federal, state, city partners on all of that. And as Antonia said, we emailed you all a fuller copy of the report from the Advisory Council that we do every month. And that's it for me.
Yeah.
My typical bathroom questions, if I may. Pier 97, they are open. Okay, that's great news. Very happy to hear it. And then also, can you share just the Pier 94 bathroom situation as well?
Yeah, so we opened the Pier 97 bathrooms a couple of weeks ago, and it's been maybe last Monday, so we're in week 2, I think, of that. The Pier 94 bathrooms, which are not Hudson River Park bathrooms, they were a required community amenity for the new film studios that were built, are open also as well. Our team confirmed that they were open the other day, so you have 2 new bathrooms to use if you are in the area north of 55th Street.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, so may I go ahead?
When I know, just what on public programming, when do we officially begin as a program begin?
So our earliest programming it will begin largely towards the beginning of May. We do have now with this space in Pier 57, we do have year-round programming. So we do have winter programming. We have Secret Science and Ask a Scientist programming right now. So it will largely May, really beginning of June is when it's warm enough to start doing things like our free workouts and public music performances.
Okay, great. May I please have a motion to adjourn today's meeting? Okay, second? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion's approved. Thank you. The Hudson River Park Trust Board meeting is now adjourned.